are suspected of examining whether
Hello and welcome. I'm Thomas Porteous and you're watching the World Report on NewsX World. Let's take a look at some of the top headlines of the hour. Iranian President Masoud Pezeshkian says he sees a favourable outlook ahead of a third round of talks with the United States. He says the negotiations held under the guidance of the Supreme Leader could help end the long-standing standoff with Washington. President Trump declares a golden age of America in his State of the Union address, defending his economic record amid sliding approval ratings. With Republicans fearing midterm losses, he credits himself. Paris Saint-Germain named defender Achraf Hakimi in their squad for the Champions League tie against Monaco despite his impending rape trial. French prosecutors confirm the 27-year-old Morocco international will stand trial while he denies any wrongdoing. Syria confirms a mass escape from Al-Hol camp after Kurdish forces withdrew, allowing relatives of suspected Islamic State jihadists to flee. Officials say the camp was left in disorder, leading to collective escapes from a facility long seen as a security flashpoint. Ukrainian negotiators meet US officials to discuss post-war reconstruction, including a proposed prosperity package, President Volodymyr Zelensky has said. Talks will also prepare for possible trilateral meetings with Russia, which Kyiv hopes to hold in early March. Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi arrives in Israel for a two-day visit aimed at deepening strategic ties as US-Iran tensions raise fears of regional conflict. Modi, who made a historic first visit in 2017, seeks to build on growing defense and diplomatic cooperation with Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. A military airstrike in Myanmar's Rakhine state kills 17 people, including women and children, and injures 14 others. The attack comes weeks after a military-backed election was dismissed by international observers as a sham amid ongoing civil war. Chancellor Friedrich Merz begins his first official visit to China, pushing to reset trade ties and address strains on Germany's manufacturing sector. Premier Li Qiang in Beijing. Both sides back free trade amid US tariff disruptions and sign agreements on climate and food security. We start this hour with some breaking news coming out of China, and Beijing and Berlin have issued a joint statement emphasizing that the importance of open dialogue, fair competition and mutual market access. Both countries highlighted their commitment to continued communication on key global issues, particularly regarding the ongoing Ukraine conflict. The two sides expressed support for efforts to achieve a ceasefire and lasting peace in alignment with the principles of the UN Charter. Furthermore, China and Germany reaffirmed their willingness to engage in discussions on climate change and green transition, underscoring their shared responsibility in addressing global challenges. Both nations also agreed to address concerns through frank and open dialogue, signalling a continued cooperative approach in various sectors. We'll bring you more on that visit as news comes in to us. But now over to some breaking news coming out of Africa, and according to reports, the Democratic Republic of Congo forces have launched attacks on multiple fronts against the M23 rebel group. Earlier yesterday, a fragile ceasefire in eastern Congo appeared to falter further as the rebel alliance known as AFC M23 accused government forces of launching a series of drone and artillery strikes on densely populated towns, deepening fears that a regional truce brokered less than 2 weeks ago is collapsing. We'll bring you all the developments coming out of DRC and that ongoing conflict as soon as we get them. But now over to West Asia and some more breaking news coming out of the Middle East. And a senior official from Hezbollah has indicated that while the organization supports Iran politically, it would not automatically join a conflict with the United States in the event of what Washington calls limited military strikes against Iranian targets. Hezbollah's leadership said the group is not neutral and has close ties with Tehran, but stopped short of promising direct military engagement. Instead, it emphasized that it will assess the situation before deciding any course of action. We'll bring you all the updates coming out of Lebanon and that broader situation. We stay in West Asia to start this hour. Iranian Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi, along with his team, departed Tehran for Geneva ahead of a third round of talks with the United States. The talks, which have already seen 2 rounds mediated by Oman, focus on reaching an agreement regarding Iran's nuclear program. Araghchi expressed optimism, saying that a deal with the US to prevent conflict is within reach. Iran's President Masoud Pezeshkian also reacted to the impending talks. The leader expressed optimism aiming to resolve the ongoing standoff. He stated that there was a favorable outlook for the negotiations, which are ongoing under the guidance of Iran's supreme leader. Pezeshkian also emphasized that the goal is to move beyond the current neither war nor peace situation and find a resolution. In a separate development, the Iranian president also reassured university students protesting across the country, stating that the government is ready to engage and address their concerns. Joining us to discuss the ongoing tensions between Tehran and Washington is Raymond Vickery. He's an international affairs expert and former US Assistant Secretary of Commerce. He joins us live from Washington, D.C. Raymond, thank you so much for taking the time and joining us here on the broadcast. Of course, these tensions are escalating with neither here nor there. It's all shrouded in mystery right now whether the United States will indeed strike Washington. However, what we have seen is the Iranian foreign minister head over to Geneva to that third round of talks, which is of course a miraculous development due to the sheer difference of the pages the two sides were on before these talks even started. Donald Trump, once again, Raymond, I'm sure you saw, reiterating those same threats towards the Iranians, that the deal is needed to be reached, that diplomacy is preferred, but Donald Trump stands ready to launch military action if needed. What are the two sides going into this conflict, and how do you think that the Geneva talks will suffice under that military pressure which Donald Trump has put Iran under?
Well, thanks very much for allowing me to comment on this, Thomas. You know, in order to wage peace like you wage war, you've got to have strategy, you got to have partners, and you have to have principles. Unfortunately, President Trump's approach to Iran has none of those. What he is trying to do is to portray this as some sort of real estate deal in which two leaders get together and they make a deal, and presumably President Donald Trump comes out on top. You heard, and we all heard, what President Trump said last night, saying that it was basically his way or the highway, that the United States would settle for nothing less than a complete cessation of any kind of nuclear enrichment that might lead to weapons, and complete withdrawal from Western Asia and the Middle East. This extremist position is a part of the art of the deal for President Trump. Rather than trying to build a relationship, what he's trying to do is, as I say, come out on top. From the Iranian perspective, the leadership has grave difficulties domestically. They do not want a war at this point because a war would encourage domestic unrest. and maybe lead to regime change. And so they're trying to talk both ways in terms of reaching a settlement, saying that there is optimism, while at the same time trying to placate the domestic problems and talking to students and others. Eventually, the regime in Tehran will fall, but it isn't going to be any time soon. And the most that can be hoped for, as Winston Churchill said, that jaw is better than war. From a U.S. perspective, Trump was elected in part on his promise to bring peace throughout the world, to withdraw from conflicts, whether they be in Afghanistan or elsewhere, and he's done exactly the opposite. So both sides are circling each other, but it is unlikely that there's going to be a move away from the present state of neither war nor peace. And the most we can hope for is that this will be delayed long enough so that saner actors on both sides will be able to provide some longer-term basis in terms of a principled approach to the problem.
Yes, Raymond, thank you very much. Do stay with us as we turn over to transatlantic relations for our next story. The US and Britain have tentatively restarted work on their multi-billion-pound tech prosperity deal, which was paused last year after President Donald Trump had piled pressure on the UK to cede ground in wider trade talks. According to reports, senior US and UK officials have initiated discussions about collaboration on civil nuclear technologies and on hosting a joint summit on fusion technologies. British Prime Minister Keir Starmer has said that at the time that the two nations were embarking upon a golden age of nuclear energy, with more transatlantic cooperation and speedier regulatory approvals for atomic projects. Starmer has added that the deal was touted by the UK as including $341 million worth of investment from America's top technology companies. Raymond Vickery joins us here once again on this discussion. What are your thoughts on the United States and Britain once again restarting this work on this tech prosperity deal, which did pause last year, facing new trade uncertainties, of course, as well, after the tariffs have been struck down by the Supreme Court? How might this develop, and what's the trust going into negotiations now?
Well, thanks for letting me comment on this, Thomas. It seems to me that the prospect of restarting the UK-US tech prosperity deal is one that shows that the limits of the Trump approach in terms of transactions has wider implications for what is a special relationship, or has been a special relationship, between the UK and the US. This was really an initiative of Prime Minister Starmer to try to regroup in terms of the relationship, concentrating not on a particular deal, but a long-term relationship between these two great democracies. Unfortunately, President Trump sees everything as the leverage for a deal. And the whole tech prosperity deal was paused over the issue of the regulation of big tech, the United States companies who really don't want regulation, whereas the United Kingdom says, yes, there has to be regulation of these the technological giants. And so President Trump was trying to use this as leverage, not looking really at the relationship or what the purposes were of this deal, but seeing if he could accomplish something else on behalf of his constituents in U.S. big tech. It is remarkable, really, that it's being restarted again after being put in the deep freeze only a few months ago. Nevertheless, it's a hopeful sign that the underlying realities between the U.S. And U.K. economically and strategically require that there be not just a transactional approach, but a look at the long-term relationship.
Yes, Raymond, we'll keep tabs on that. Thank you so much for taking the time in joining us and giving us your insight there. It was great to have you. We turn now over to Eastern Europe for our next story. Hungary's Prime Minister Viktor Orbán accused Ukraine of planning to disrupt the Hungarian energy system and ordered the deployment of soldiers and equipment to safeguard critical infrastructure. His action further escalates a dispute with Ukraine over an outage on the Druzhba oil pipeline carrying Russian crude deliveries to Hungary and Slovakia, both of whom blame Kiev for the prolonged halt to supplies for its refineries. Kiev says the outage was caused by a Russian drone striking pipeline equipment in western Ukraine. Orbán, speaking in a video on his Facebook page, reiterated the Druzhba shutdown was for political, not technical reasons, and said intelligence reports show possible further disruption to Hungary's energy system. Let's listen into what Orbán has said on the issue.
Tanácsülése, amit az ukrán olajblokkád miatt hívtam össze. Január 27-e óta nem érkezik olaj a barátság kőolajvezetéken Magyarországra. Az adatokból egyértelmű, hogy ennek példanélküli leállásnak nem műszaki, hanem politikai okai vannak. Az ukrán kormány olajblokkáddal gyakorol nyomást Magyarországra és Szlovákiára. Meghallgattam a nemzetbiztonsági szolgálatok beszámolóit. Látom, hogy Ukrajna további akciókra készül a magyar energiarendszer működésének megzavarása érdekében. Ezért elrendeltem a kritikus energetikai infrastruktúra védelmének megerősítését. Ez azt jelenti, hogy a kiemelt energetikai létesítmények közelébe katonákat és a támadások elhárításához szükséges eszközöket is telepítünk. A rendőrség a kijelölt erőművek, elosztóállomások és irányító központok környékén nagyobb erőkkel járőrözik majd. Szabolcs-Szatmár-Bereg vármegyében pedig elrendeltem a drón repülési tilalmat.
Joining us now to discuss this is Alison Mutler, the former Associated Press bureau chief, joining us live from Spain at this time. Thank you very much, Alison, for joining us here on the broadcast. Hungary here with some brazen accusations for Kiev. Orbán, of course, has led the charge in the European Union against anti-Ukraine rhetoric, let's put it. Does Orbán have any weight in his claims when it comes to his accusations that Kiev has purposely disrupted the Druzhba pipeline, of course obstructing energy from Russia into Ukraine, Slovakia and Hungary itself?
Russia's war against Ukraine, its invasion of Ukraine, is also a war with Europe and Orbán and Fico, but Orbán is a bigger name. Fico is the Prime Minister of Slovakia. It does play a key role. He is an ally, even though Hungary is a member of NATO and the European Union. He is an ally of Putin, more or less, not 100%, but more or less. So he's a voice for Putin. So obviously it is to be expected for him to say we're not getting the oil that we should get because, you know, Donald Trump has given us a reprieve on sanctions. We're not getting it for political reasons because of Ukraine. Now, Ukraine says it was bombed by Russia, the pipeline. It's a very chaotic war. It's very likely it was bombed by Russia, perhaps by mistake, by a drone. But Budapest comes out straight away and says, no, this is political and this is against us and this is Ukraine. So he serves two purposes. We're not getting the oil and it's Ukraine's fault and it's a political strike. Now, there's no weight to those words. He is doing what the Kremlin would want him to do. Of course, Orban is very grateful to get Russian oil, or to hope to get Russian oil. And so therefore he is serving the purposes, the political purposes of the Kremlin. It's impossible to know actually what happened, but there is no evidence he presented. He says Hungarian intelligence. I'm not sure that Hungarian intelligence reaches that far, but obviously he hopes that gives weight to his claims. But basically it doesn't. This is a political statement for Orban to show once again that his alliances are more with the Kremlin than Ukraine. And we know he's anti-Ukraine, anti-helping Ukraine, anti-military aid to Ukraine. And he is dependent, his country, his government, because he faces election in next month, in April. He is dependent on the Kremlin for energy, and he will dance to their tune. He will sing the song they want him to sing. So I don't think his words have great weight, because we have no evidence of what he says.
Yes, Alison, thank you very much. Do stay with us as we turn over to our next story and we move over the English Channel, where UK Parliament Speaker Lindsay Hoyle has revealed that he passed information to police about former British envoy to Washington, Peter Mandelson. The information is part of a misconduct in public office investigation related to Mandelson's links with convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein. Mandelson is alleged to have passed financial information to Epstein when he served as UK Business Secretary from 2009 to 2010. Hoyle said he handed over the information in good faith and expressed his regret that it quickly became public. Mandelson was arrested on suspicion of misconduct in public office and has since been released on bail as the investigation into his ties with Jeffrey Epstein continues. Let's take a listen into the statements.
Members will be aware of comments in the media regarding the arrest of Lord Mandelson. To prevent any inaccurate speculation, I'd like to confirm that upon receipt of information that I felt it was relevant, I passed this on to the Metropolitan Police in good faith, as is my duty and responsibility. It is regrettable this rapidly ended in the media, as this is a live investigation. Members will understand that it would not be appropriate to make any further comment, and I'd like to caution members from doing so.
We move back over to West Asia. Syria has confirmed a mass escape of relatives of suspected Islamic State jihadists from the Al-Hol camp after the withdrawal of Kurdish forces last month. The camp, the largest in northeastern Syria, had been under the control of the Kurdish-led Syrian Democratic Forces, otherwise known as the SDF, who left under pressure on January the 20th. Syrian forces moved in quickly after the Kurdish withdrawal, but a chaotic situation ensued with more than 138 breaches in the camp's perimeter wall, allowing thousands of women and children to flee. Authorities have now moved remaining families to another location in northern Syria. The US military had previously moved over 5,700 IS suspects from Syrian prisons to Iraq as part of the global effort against the group. Let's take a listen in.
وعند وصول فرقنا المختصة تبين حدوث حالات هروب جماعي نتيجة فتح المخيم بصورة عشوائية مع ترك بعض عناصر الحراسة مواقعهم مع أسلحتهم، إضافة إلى إزالة حواجز داخلية ضمن المخيم، ما أدى إلى حالة من الفوضى كادت تهدد الأمن العام في المنطقة لولا التدخل السريع لمؤسسات الدولة السورية لإعادة.
Alison Mutler joins us once again. Alison, how serious is this situation, bringing further volatility to an already extremely volatile country? How might this develop and what damages might it cause?
Well, I think it's pretty serious. First of all, we find out more than a month later that there's been these 138 breaches, I think, on the camp, which is about, 17 kilometers the circumference. Okay, it's not necessarily dangerous prison, it's women and children, but it just shows the absolute chaos that is there. and what has happened with the Syrian forces pushing out the Kurdish ones that were guarding the prison. So I think this adds more tension. You already have, as you said in your report, the US has sent 5,700, I think, prisoners to be in Iraq. This is an idea. This is to dilute the power and to prevent them regrouping. But it's obviously quite a chaotic situation in northern Syria. Some of these women and children have been, reinterred, but it is very difficult, and there's more chaos. I mean, the whole region there's a lot of tensions there and chaos with all the different developments going on, different movements with the different forces, and with this is basically in the aftermath of the demise of the former regime. The current government is just a year and something old, so there are a lot of changes going on, and there's a lot of chaos as well. So yes, it just does add to that, and plus, as I said, the late reporting of this, it's more than a month old, this story. Yeah. So who knows what's happened in the meantime, and we're obviously not getting fresh reports out of there every day. So yes, it does add to the tensions and the chaos in the region.
Alison Mutler, thank you so much for taking the time as always. It's a great pleasure to have you on the broadcast here on NewsX World. We now turn over to our next story, and we finish in Europe, where Pope Leo XIV will visit 4 African nations in April, including a historic trip to Algeria, marking the first papal visit to the North African Muslim country. Reports suggest that the Pope will focus on interfaith dialogue during his visit to Algiers and Annaba from April the 13th to the 15th. The visit coincides with the 30th anniversary of the beheading of 7 French monks in Algeria's civil war. According to reports, he will also visit Cameroon, Angola and Equatorial Guinea, promoting peace amid separatist struggles, and before his African tour he will visit Monaco on the 28th and Spain in June, including the inauguration of a new Sagrada Familia Tower. Well, that's all that we have time for this hour. Keep watching NewsX World for more international news updates.